It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Peter Auster of Cosmetic Dentistry Associates in Pomona, New York. Where is Pomona, New York? Is that a suburb of New York City?
It sure is. It's about an hour from the city.
An hour from the city. Dr. Peter Auster reviewed his dental life 15 years ago and decided he wanted out. He scanned the want ads, couldn't find an acceptable substitute, and decided to rearrange his dental and physical world instead. Slowly, his dental life evolved, and his goal is now to help other unhappy, unfulfilled dentists. He was recently named a 2017 leader in continuing education by Dentistry Today magazine. Dr. Auster has lectured from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, and recently in Kingston, Jamaica. In 2016, he completed a second term on the board of directors of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry and is very proud of his selection as the AACD 2015 Humanitarian of the Year and a voted member of the leadership committee. Dr. Auster is founder and past president of the New York affiliate of the AACD, the Greater New York Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. Dr. Auster's series of articles in Dentistry Today is entitled Conquering a Difficult Case. His October 2015 article in Inside Dentistry entitled Cosmetic Dentistry for Patients with Bulimia discusses the role dentists can play in potentially saving the lives of patients with eating disorders, in addition to revitalizing their smiles. His seminars include How to Be Thrilled in Dentistry for the First Time, summarized in an October 2015 article in Dental Economics, Tackling Complicated Cases and 100 Cosmetic Products and Pearls. He recently became a Dawson Scholar and received a concept of complete dentistry award from the Dawson Academy. Dr. Auster's volunteer work includes 9 years of volunteer dentistry in Jamaica, Give Back a Smile, ADA donated dental services, and Smiles for Life, in which his office has contributed over $40,000 to children's charities in the last 3 years. He has received a certificate for international voluntary service from the ADA. He's been voted a top dentist in the Hudson Valley by his peers for the last 9 years. Dr. Auster is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania School of Dental Medicine, and it is just a complete, huge honor that you came on the show today. How are you doing, buddy?
That makes me sound a whole lot better than I really am, but thank you for reading the whole thing.
No, you are that and a bag of chips, and you're also on the did I mention the Catapult Educator?
Yes.
With Lou Graham, who I think what I love about Lou Graham and what I love about you is dentists get burned out. I mean, my dad owned restaurants. He owned Sonic Drive-Ins, and when you see people about to come in and eat a cheeseburger and onion rings and tater tots, you can't beat the smile off their face. And then I chose dentistry, where they're coming in without a smile on their face, and instead of making cheeseburgers and tater tots, you start doing root canals, fillings, and crowns for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and then you start doing it for losing money prices on some of these PPOs and Medicaids. You can get burned out. What percent of the dentists in America do you think do not enjoy going to work?
First question I ask in my seminars is, how many of you are thrilled to come to the office every day? And out of 100 typical people, maybe 2 say yes.
Wow. So only 2 out of 100. And how many times do you think you've asked that question?
Oh, gosh. I'd say at least 30, 40 times over the years.
Wow. So only 2% are thrilled to go to work.
It depends where I ask it, though. If I ask it at a dental society meeting, I'll usually get 0. If I ask it at the Dawson Academy, I'll get maybe 70% of the people saying yes.
So that's profound. So the people going to a dental state meeting, nobody.
Yeah.
But if they're the ones going for it by going to Dawson, Coy's, Spear, Pankey, LVI, if they're going for it somewhere, then it's 70%.
They need to find a passion.
Right.
I call it looking for a genius. And the genius can be Coy's, it can be Spear, it can be you. But they need somebody to kind of help round their life out, because dental school just doesn't teach you enough.
That is, and is that kind of your passion when you're out there lecturing? I mean, is that what kind of gets you in lecturing, trying to, because you were burned out? You said after 15 years you wanted out, and now are you thrilled to go to work?
Yes, I am. I'm actually happiest that I've ever been in dentistry, at a stage where most of my friends are thinking about retirement. I want to keep going. And I didn't.
And can I ask how old you are?
I am 62.
Well, you're looking damn good, buddy. So are you going to just do at 65 I retire or not?
I hope, as long as my body will hold out, I want to go for at least another 10 years if it does. But
Yeah,
that's one of the issues we have.
that's the same thing I always said when I was a Chippendale dancer. I said, until the pole starts bending, I'm not going to quit. But then when the pole snapped in half, I had to walk off the stage.
You haven't gone back?
No, I haven't. They just it's the same question we answer when dental students get on Dentaltown. They say, "Do you think I should specialize in pediatric dentistry?" And every old dentist will say, well, "You should specialize in pediatric dentistry if that's your passion. Don't do it for supply, demand, economics, and follow your passion." Because they don't realize if they hated pediatric dentistry and went into it because they thought they'd make more money, after 5 years they'd probably be on heroin and crack cocaine and antidepressants and quit.
I start my seminars giving them a list of things that could potentially become their passions. And that could be anything from sleep dentistry, from placing implants, from creating your own cases in any way. But you have to find something that means something to you, or else it's not going to work. And the first thing that I do is I give a list of things and ask them things that drive them crazy about dentistry. And there are a lot of things that do.
And are you gonna list some of those?
If you'd like me to, these all come from the responses that people have given me. Number one, running your own business and a dental practice is a difficult concept because you're working on patients all day long and you've got to do all kinds of other stuff when the day ends. If you're working for owners in dentistry, you've got to deal with the owners. Doing dentistry all day and paperwork and calls and emails and everything else, dealing with insurance. I call them full moon patients that we deal with. I think we deal with full moon people than anybody out there. And if you take a look at your patient load on a full moon, it's amazing because it always seems to be the same people.
You really think there's something to that full moon thing?
Oh, there's no question about it, Howard. No question about it.
Yeah.
Right now, it's corporate competition that we're dealing with, or being in the corporate structure. Staffing is always a problem, or can be a problem if you don't have the right staff, and I give people tips on how to develop the right staff. One thing about dentistry that's difficult is boredom. I mean, once you start doing, as you said, 20 years of the same thing, it gets really boring filling cavities every day. Dentistry's wear and tear in our bodies, I mentioned before. And so many of my friends have hip problems, back problems, shoulder problems, everything else. And then there is a simple thing that nobody talks about, and that's that our spouses don't understand what we do in the course of a day. And they don't necessarily understand that we are doing physical labor. It's not massive physical labor, but we're working with our hands, we're hurting our backs, we're doing everything else. We come home at the end of the day, they want to go and do stuff. We want to kind of relax because we've been working all day long with our hands.
I know it. I've been a proud sponsor of divorce for years. I love it. Living in my own home, and yeah, okay, but we will go there. So,
Well,
you just said get divorced, fire your spouse, or if you're single or engaged, don't do it. Okay, I just
well, no, I'm on 35 years with the same spouse.
Wow.
So it's worked for me, but there has to be some understanding along the way, and my wife is an understanding person.
Yeah, and they got to get involved with the business because divorce, I mean, it's a third over money, a third over sex, and a third over substance abuse. And a lot of the substance abuse is back to the money. The dentist comes home and says, "Ma, I did 5 crowns today." The wife hears, "Aren't crowns $1,000 a piece? Wow, we got $5,000. Let's go shopping." She doesn't know there's the $1,000 adjusted production to the PPO fee is $600. All blah blah blah. They don't realize he might not even be making money. So yeah, so if you have a spouse, they at least have to know the accounting.
Totally. So when I speak, the first part of what I have to say is a downer. And then I start going in the other direction and trying to build people up. And that's stage 2.
Well, before we go to stage 2, you've been in this game for 35 years. I've been in it for 30 years. What's your prediction of where it's going to be in 35 more years? If you were if you were just a halftime of this dentist NFL football game, I mean, do you think 35 more years? Do you think we'll all be Walgreens and CVS? Do you think where do you think it's going?
I think you've got to become a boutique in one way or another, or you've got to just sign on and realize you're going to be taken over by the rest. And what I mean by a boutique is you have to be special at something, and whether that's cosmetic dentistry or implants or endo or perio, because I think that's going to be a lot of that's going to become part of the GP lifestyle. I think you're in trouble, and I think small practices like ours early on are not going to be around.
Wow.
I'll tell you a little story, and of course I've got to be very nebulous about this. But a staff member of mine who worked as a temp for a while told me a story about a practice that's close to me, and told me that among the things they do in this practice is they use one composite material. I'm sure you're familiar with Sure-Fill SDR Flow, right?
Right.
It's a base. It's a base that you put underneath another material. It's not a material to be used as restoration material. In this guy's series of practices, and I believe he's got 10 to 12 of them now, that is the only composite they use. They use it for buildups, for fillings, for whatever. And they do it because they get a very, very low price on it. I think he gets it from abroad, so he gets it cheaper in the gray market. And that's all he uses. That's number one. Number two is that he was cited by an employee for making his staff members re-wear gloves in the course of the day. They'd wash their gloves and then use them again for the next patient. Now, those things, okay, that's bad practices have been going like that for years, except for one thing. This guy is coming in line to be one of the heads of one of the major dental societies in the United States.
And his name is?
I can't
come on, it's Dentistry Uncensored.
Can't go any
I've been
further on
pissing
that
people
one.
off my whole life.
I can't go on that one.
Well, but then, you say it's going to go, we're all going corporate. But when you and I got out of school, the United Kingdom already was. They had 20,000 dentists. They were all NHS. And then we saw the same thing where the fees got so low, the materials, everything got so shitty. Finally, dentists just got to the point where I hate it, and they started walking. Now there's 5,000 of those 20,000 UK dentists that don't have a thing to do with it. And the rest of them are just some kind of a hybrid. And when I talk to the hybrid ones, a lot of the hybrid ones don't want to give up their NHS volume practice because they're pulling, maybe 5 or 10 Invisalign cases out of it, fee for service a month, or 5 to 10 implant cases. They like the bait and switch, like, yeah, we'll come in and do all the cleanings and fillings for a break even or a loss because we think we'll upgrade 10 implants and 10 Invisalign a month. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the pendulum's always swinging. And remember when, but anyway, but continue.
Part of it's financial. Part of it's financial, as you know, for kids coming out of school. If they're coming out of school with $400,000 in debt, they're kind of forced to join these practices because they can't afford to move into any other kind of practice.
I don't know. I mean, because I see two types of graduates that come out with $400,000 in debt. One will just play the violin. I got $400,000 in debt, and then you see them 2 or 3 years later at the local meeting, and they're all excited because they just bought a $400,000 house. And then the $400,000 was Crimea River until $400,000 was a new house in Chandler. And then there's the other breed where they're $400,000 in debt. The next time you see them, they just bought a dental office for $750,000, and if the banks approve you, they don't even have a 0.4% failure rate. In fact, right now, what we're seeing in all the across the country to sellers market, almost every practice transition consultant tells me that whenever you put a practice up, you get 4 bids the first day, and some of the bids are higher than the offer.
That hasn't been the experience with my friends. I guess it depends on different parts of the country and the economy in that part of the country, but I know a number of people, particularly specialists, who haven't been able to sell their practices at all. They just dissolve them.
Wow. Yeah, it is a huge country, and I don't like the term United States of America because no one refers to Europe as the EU. No one compares Germany to Greece or Italy to Denmark. No one says the EU. It doesn't even make any sense. And you can't compare Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma when a barrel of oil is $100 to San Francisco's Silicon Valley. I mean, it's even the Federal Reserve says it's 9 to 12 countries flying under one flag. So you're absolutely right, and that's why you say that you lecture from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine. So um, you're saying if they're burned out, they're not thrilled to go to work. What if they're going to their associate, and 12% of the associates are with the corporate dentistry, and the rest are with just private practice, and they don't like working for the old man, but they're kind of scared of starting their own business. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to get more knowledge before you start doing it. Again, I'd say find something that you think you can do better than anybody else around you. And as I said, it could be implants, it could be CEREC, it could be anything that you feel comfortable doing, but you got to feel comfortable doing it and have the knowledge to do it.
Yeah, and people always misunderstand my views on these high tech things. The fact that if 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 buying a laser or a CEREC machine or a CBCT just lights your candle, you can't afford not to get it.
Right.
But if you think you have to have that so that you can have $1 million practice and take home 350, you're out of your mind.
Right.
So, but I don't want you to have $1 million practice and then burn out and quit. So there's boys and their toys to give you passion and purpose, and then there's just straight out business. And you can find him almost every $1 million practice I know where the doc takes home 350. They're rural. It's all hygiene. They just do fillings and crowns. They don't place implants. They don't do sleep apnea. They don't do Invisalign. They don't do anything. And but let's talk about those two Americas. It's so easy to be a crush it in rural, where there's half the competition, and it's so brutal in downtown Boston, Manhattan, L.A., Chicago. What would you say to the kids? What would you say to the dentists in those areas that are that decided they were going to go to Scottsdale?
Same thing. Same thing. I truly believe that I guess maybe it works in rural settings that I don't know about, what you're talking about. But it's not what I found touring the country and the places that I've been to. And I would say no matter where you are, just make yourself a highlight in that area in whatever way you can. And that can be, it doesn't even have to be regular dentistry. It can be in sleep apnea. You could be the guy in your area that really understands how to fix people's snoring issues and their disease issues. Placing of implants, short-term ortho, there's things you can do there that other people can't do. If you can cure people's headaches or migraines, that's something that really makes a difference. The other thing that I recommend to try to bring people up in their world, which isn't necessarily what you're asking me here, is really get involved with charities, and particularly doing dentistry either abroad or major charity work in the United States, because it really makes a big difference in your life when you do it.
It does. I remember the first time I did, I was just a kid. I think I was 27, and I just thought I was so stressed, and I thought I was juggling all these balls, and I was having a pity party. And next thing I know, I was with 5,000 people that didn't have running water, electricity, or sewage. And you just saw. I saw this on last night. Did you the founder and CEO of Pacific Dental is Steve Thorne? Have you met Steve?
I know.
And Pacific Dental Services did a deal where they went over there and they put 100 wells in Ethiopia. Did you see that video? Oh my gosh! So he's out there in the sticks of Ethiopia, and he's filming this stuff. And I've been out there, and I mean I've been to Tanzania and Somalia and Ethiopia, and you go there and you do charity dentistry, and you realize, my God, I mean it's like landing on a different planet.
I know. And my staff tells me when I come back, they want me to go and then come back every couple of weeks because I'm always in this fabulous mood the day I come back. I'm always exhausted. Not the kind of vacation where you feel rested when you come back, but you come back and you just, first of all, dentistry is so easy when you've got an overhead light and you've got a chair and you've got a drill that works and a suction that actually works. It's amazing how wonderful your equipment is when you come back and try it for the first time.
Yeah. So you mostly, when you do a missionary dentistry, is it missionary with religion or church?
Neither.
So you call it humanitarian then?
Yeah, pretty much. I work with an organization. It's got a really awful name, but it's a great organization. It's called Great Shape International, which was started by
Great Shape International.
Great Shape International. which initially was started as some other kind of organization. I don't even remember, but then they got involved with the dentist, and suddenly it's become the largest dental humanitarian organization in the world. They have over 600 people going out every year to Jamaica, St. Lucia, and I believe they're going to be starting in another country or two. And it's amazing stuff. I go with 70 people every year.
Is it the same 70 people?
No, I'd say 50 of them stay the same, and then another 20 come in. But
And
it's
we're so here it is. Great Great, as in GREAT, Shape Inc.
yes.
Great Shape Inc. org, established in 1988.
Mhm.
40,000 people served annually, 700 volunteers a year. And what percent is this dental?
I don't know what percentage. I know most of it is dental, but they have an optometry program as well, where they bring glasses to people, and an educational program. It's great stuff. It really is.
I've been there when they were removing cataracts, where all these poor people thought had been blind for years.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
it's just unbelievable. Well, that is very cool. You know what you ought to do is on the message boards. We have 50 categories. We have endo, restorative, crown and we have all these categories. But one of them that I was asking you, one of them we named it humanitarian dentistry, and then we have two subcategories. One is charitable, and one is missionary, because some like to do it and spread their religion. Others do it. So it's all humanitarian, but this would be under charitable. But you should go post some pictures and all that stuff under the humanitarian, and it'll be the best mark in the world, because it's a very common question where people are in a midlife crisis saying, well, this is on my bucket list. I've always wanted to do it. And now they're hearing you. Will you do that for, because lots of people are listening right now, and then they're driving, they can't take notes, and then they can go to Dentaltown and go to the humanitarian. You make a post on this?
I'd love to. Well, one of the things that I have the opportunity to do that most people don't get to do in these kind of missions is I do cosmetic dentistry there. I'm not an extractor. I've always hated doing extractions. So in Jamaica, where I go, the only real industry is tourism. There's nothing else. It's kind of vacuous in every other way. So I have the opportunity to bring these people in, do cosmetic work on them, and send them out into the workforce, because people can't get jobs in Jamaica in the tourism industry if they got messed up front teeth. So it's kind of a fun, really rewarding thing to see. Can I tell you one quick story?
Of course. You can tell me all the stories you want.
This is an awesome story, and this made me come back forever. And it wasn't even a patient that I saw. It was a patient that a buddy of mine, his name's Richie Langiuli, who's one of the real cool guys in dentistry. Anyway, he was sitting next to me, and he saw a young woman, and the woman was triaged for extracting a wisdom tooth. So he was about to extract the wisdom tooth. He took a look at her and saw that she was just 18 years old and had a broken front tooth that was completely shattered. But the triage people there were actually people in, not dentistry from the US, but from Jamaica, and they thought the most important thing was the abscess to deal with. Just ignored this thing in the front. So he asked her if she wanted him to fix it. And she started crying hysterically when he said that. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings." And she said, "No, you can't. I can't tell you what this means to me." So he said, "Well, okay, why don't you tell me afterwards what the story is? I'd love to hear it." So he did the work. He repaired her front teeth. She took a look in the mirror and started completely weeping after the tooth was extracted again. So he asked her why, and she said that 7 years before, when she was 11, she was raped and beaten up. And this is now 7 years later, and every time she ever looked in a mirror, she would see the results of this miserable thing that was done to her. So he had this opportunity to change her life in such an amazing way. And when I saw that happen, and when I heard about that, I said, I'm going back every year, and I'm going to keep going until my legs and arms keep me.
That is so cool. I mean, that is really cool. And I love doing you're a big time in the AACD. I went to the first time. I'm lecturing there again this year, but last time I was in Jamaica, I was lecturing at their AACD meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that is the most beautiful place in the world. And it's a big shout out to Anissa Holmes. You know Anissa Holmes? delivering the power of wow. She's a big dentist. Her husband's an oral surgeon. They got a rocking hot practice in Jamaica. Next time you go to Jamaica, you got to look up Anissa. Hey, you also give seminars for Catapult. One of your lectures is 60 less expensive products that make cosmetic dentistry easier. And you also talked about how you love Dan Fisher's Ultradent Gemini laser. Why do you love Dan Fisher's Gemini laser?
Well, first of all, it's the coolest looking thing on the face of the earth. I don't know if you've seen it, but it looks like something, right? It's great. It looks like it's right out of Star Wars. Um, it works much better than any diode I've ever used, and I've had the chance to work with 10 or 15 diodes over the years. And for some reason, I guess it's got to do with the dual wavelength. It makes a big difference in the amount of singeing and damage to tissue. I did a case the other day where I was doing 6 through 11, and I looked at it afterwards, and I actually did composites to restore the teeth right afterwards, and I looked at it, and it looked like no surgery was ever done. And this was 2 hours later. So it's amazing how this machine works. There's something in it that just makes laser use
Now,
easier and healthier.
Does Dan Fisher, is he the original manufacturer of that? I mean, does he make that, or or is someone else the OEM, the
The
original manufacturer?
Okay, the person who designed it, unfortunately, I can't remember his name, was the guy that invented the original Zap laser, and the Zap laser later became the Envy laser.
Now, is that the guy in Salt Lake City?
Yes.
Yeah, because the story of the story because Dan Fisher's in South Jordan, Utah, by Salt Lake, but the a lot of industry of lasers is all tied to Salt Lake because of the original smartest guy in lasers. I mean, way back in the day, and he was the brainchild of basically lasers for America. When the military wanted, when Reagan wanted SDI, so most of those laser stuff in America, you can always track back to one instructor back in Salt Lake. So I was wondering if that was connected to that guy.
I don't know. I just know I love the product.
Interesting. So you recommend okay, and what would that laser cost? What would a Gemini cost?
Oh boy. I believe it's about $6,500. I'll tell you an interesting story about it. I shouldn't name names, so I'm not going to name the name of the other product, but it's one of the big forces in laser. So I bought their product that's around the same price point. I hated it. I hated it because I could never figure out the exact correct settings for every procedure, no matter, and they wouldn't help me at all. They gave me absolutely no help as to what setting to use. They said, figure it out for yourself. So I would go high on one patient, low on the other, and I'd burn patients. I mean, it was really a bad system. So 3 months after I bought it, I saw the Gemini for the first time I think at the Greater New York. And I said to myself, I've got to get this and I've got to get rid of the other. I sold the other one on eBay for $5,000 and bought this new one for, I think it was $6,500 at the time.
Yeah, eBay's good. There's also free classified ads on Dentaltown. There's about 6,000 ads, current ads, anytime in Dentaltown, and we're adding that to the Dentaltown app. But so much of this stuff that dentists want, I mean, buying a laser or a CAD CAM machine or CBCT, MRI, CAT scan, anything used, I mean, you can find this stuff on Dentaltown for half off.
It's awesome. It's
Yeah,
awesome. One,
that
one of one of the products that I talk about as well is I talk about one of the lights I use for my loops when I go to Jamaica, because in Jamaica there are no lights. So we're just going by natural light, and there isn't a whole lot of natural light. So I hated the lights that I'd been using over the years, and just out of nowhere, I decided to check it out on Amazon. I found a light that cost $33.75. And it's an LED light. It's much lighter than anything else on the market, and it works absolutely beautifully. So you never know where you're going to find what you're going to find.
Yeah, amazing. So you're a cosmetic guru, obviously.
Oh, I'm not a.
No, you are. I mean, you are. You've been the ACD, the most vibrant chapter. I love on your website. I mean, your website, Cosmetic Dentistry Associates. You have a YouTube video on there, and the YouTube video, I mean, that's fantastic. And I want to tell my homies listen to this stuff. See, when you go to Dr. Auster's website, is it Dentistry Dentistry of Rockland?
It's got several names. You can pick, just call it Cosmetic Dentistry Associates.com.
But why does it forward to Dentistry of Rockland? Is that for SEO purposes where you have different names?
Correct.
Okay, so how many names do you have defaulting into it other ones?
I think I've got about 5 other names, but those are the two major ones are the name of the practice and also the name of the city.
But I see, I see 4 or 5. No, I probably see 10 dental websites a day because when people send me an email, so many times they'll ask me a question and then they'll just say, they're Dave. So I got Dave at gmail.1742, and it's a different answer if you're from California or New Zealand. I mean, I don't know who the hell you are. So, but a lot of times on those emails, it'll be, like say Dave at cosmeticdentistry.associates.com. Then you can just go there, cut and paste the email off, put a www in front of the ad, and see where they're at. And I mean, 80% of the websites are just lame. I mean, just completely lame. It looks like it's either one page, or it looks like this might have been all that 5-10 years ago when you bought it at a convention. You haven't done anything to it. But when I see people, I mean, in a standard, when you look at your YouTube video and you start seeing these patients talking about your practice.
Mhm. There they are.
In fact, it's a YouTube video. Can we hook this on to the end of the podcast so when they're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, they can see it?
Of course.
Yeah, can you do that, Ryan? Yeah. Because what happens is you got half of America living in the rural, you got half living in the urban. So she's sitting there in some small town in Oklahoma, and she thinks, my dentist can't do anything like that. And then they start searching cosmetic dentistry. Then they see someone like that. And because of the falling cost of flying, like Southwest Airlines, I mean, I know guys in Kansas City that will, put videos up that aren't even as nice as yours. And that they'll have people driving 2-3 hours in from Iowa and Missouri and small towns, and especially implants. In fact, some of the guys who have done podcasts with me, especially the ones on implants, I mean, several of them said, "Oh my God, I got 10 cases from that just because it was on YouTube, and they were searching implant dentistry and found a doctor, and they listened to him talk to me on YouTube for an hour, and flew 3 or 4 states away." So I commend you on your marketing, your SEO, your website. And homies, you got to look at your website. When's the last time you went to your website? But so you mentioned the alternate Gemini laser. What are other less expensive products that make cosmetic dentistry easier?
If you let me back up for 1 second, I'll tell you how that video came about. So basically what we do every 2 years is we do a photo shoot. We take our patients to a hotel. We take them to this little place called the Pearl River Hilton Hotel. We have a hair person, a makeup person, and we give them some wine, and they have a blast at the thing with a photographer and a videographer. We end the photo shoot by having interviews with them, which is where the interviews came from. Then we had the pictures taken. About 6 weeks later, we do what we call the big reveal party. And we had the party at my office. It's a wine and cheese party where we show all the photos that you saw, or some of those that you saw in the video. The patients who who are part of the photo shoot signed the video in gold. We have a red carpet in the office when we do it, which costs us nothing to do. You can get a red carpet for $11. And patients love it. We invite the patients who've had the work done, but we also invite people who've been on the fence about having work done, so they get a chance to meet all the people who had their work done, so the people who had it done can tell them how easy it went and what a great experience it was. So it's a real win-win for the office and a win-win for the patients.
That is very, very cool. And you're just hustling. I mean, you're out there running for mayor. I mean, that's what that is. I mean, so many kids sit in an office and wait for the phone to ring, and while there's other kids that just go down to the nursing home, they go to the schools. They ask if they can lecture in the schools. They go to the hospitals. They just get out and press the flesh. I mean, it seems like any hospital you call, that you can come talk about oral health to someone. So that is so cool.
You asked me about products.
I want to go back to that laser one last thing. Now,
Oh,
when someone buys a $6,500 laser, is that because you're an AACD guy and you're doing a lot of regingival contouring and anterior cases, or are you also using that instead of packing cord and trenching around inlays, onlays, and crowns?
I am just starting to do that. Honestly, I've had a laser for 10 years and I'm just starting to do it. And I just hate retraction paste, retraction cord. So if I can avoid retraction cord, this could be the best thing ever. The other lasers I use, one of the reasons that I switched to this little more sophisticated laser is I would find that if I was using it for retraction purposes, I would singe and burn the tissue. I find that Gemini doesn't. So that's a big, big step, and that's why I'm starting to do it much more often.
Interesting.
But I'm also using it when I'm doing a class 5, when I'm working on a crown an old crown that may have decay underneath it. I'm starting to do fibromas. I'm starting to do frenectomies. It's just such an easy laser to work with that I can do some of the things that kind of were challenges for me in the past.
Nice. What other less expensive products make cosmetic dentistry easier?
Okay, these are little things that are very silly, but they work wonderfully. I don't know how familiar you are with Garrison, which is a tremendous company. Garrison and Triodent are two companies that have been kind of fighting over each other for quite some time, and they all make wonderful products. So one of the things that Garrison makes is something called the Very Strip, which is a little tiny mylar strip, a blue mylar strip, which sounds ridiculous. Why would that be something that's a big deal? Well, they do something with this mylar strip where it's smaller on one end, larger on the other end, and has a natural curve to it. That natural curve, if you put it around the tooth, takes away flash. It's amazing. Where I use a regular mylar strip, and there'd always be flash at the top, flash at the bottom. When I use these things, I never get it. So it's a terrific new
And where's
product.
Garrison out of? Because Triodent, that's New Zealand, isn't it?
Triodent is New Zealand, correct. Garrison is someplace in the Midwest, I think, but I couldn't.
Ohio.
I don't know. I don't know. Let's see.
So what's the name of that blue strip called? Garrison's what?
Very Strip.
And
I think it's VARI Strip.
Very Strip. Nice. And that'll reduce flash.
Mm-hmm. And along with it, they also make some new matrices that are really wonderful. There's something called a 3D Fusion Matrices they just came out with, which really work incredibly well at creating good contacts. They just came out with one, I forget what they call it, but it's a much wider matrix. So if you've got a tooth where half of the distal end of it is broken off, it actually works on those. Where in the past, that was the one application where it didn't work. So I recommend those a lot. What other? In terms of composites, I am a huge fan of the Tokiyama products these days. Omega, which I think is a wonderful cosmetic product for the front of the mouth, and
Spell
Sigma.
Tokiyama.
I'm sorry?
You said Tokiyama?
Tokiyama.
Spell it.
Tokyama. Yes.
And it's Tokiyama. What's the name of the composite?
There are two. They all have the name Estelite. So it's Estelite Sigma Quick is their posterior composite, and Estelite Omega is their anterior composite. One of the things I like about both of them, first of all, they polish beautifully. They have an incredible chameleon effect. Both of them do. And ambient light does not destroy them. So I am really, really impressed by those products.
So, so Tokiyama, Estelite, Sigma's posterior, Omega's in the front.
Correct.
That's
Sigma.
Omega's. Okay, so Alpha Omega. Omega's the end, right? Alpha beginning, Omega the end. I would think that Alpha would be the incisors, and but they went with. I wonder where they went with Sigma for the back and Omega in the front. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, it's no worse than GC. Have you ever seen how GC names products? Genial, G dash.
Well, you know, but that's my point. This company's from Japan, right?
Yeah, same thing.
And when you're in MBA school, they always tell you over and over and over, never do your marketing from your country for another country. I've told the story before when the German, when SP was a German company before 3M bought it. Remember when they brought over Promptel Pop?
Yes.
Like Promptel Pop. What the hell's Promptel Pop? They go, the Germans are like, well, prompt is fast,
Yeah.
and it looked like lollipop. Fast lollipop. We're like, okay, Germans, you should have gave that job to someone in New York City. Some of the Japanese
Yeah,
companies.
GC makes good products too. They also have something called Link Ace. And remember a couple of years ago where there was a Grandia and a Gradia on the market at the same time, one with an
Right.
N, one without an N.
Right.
Yeah. Other products that I love. I am a big fan of Ivoclar's product line. Not necessarily the least expensive, but to me the best in a lot of products. I love their cements these days. Variolink Aesthetic is a marvelous cement, and it's taken away a lot of problems I used to have with cosmetic dentistry.
Okay, what I'm doing is I know my homies are driving, so they can't take notes. So I am going to the Tokiyama Dental Company. You said is you go to my @HowardFarran. These guys are @TOKUY Tokiyama Dental. So I'm going to retweet their last tweet. It says, "Come spin the wheel for a chance to win great prize at a booth." No, I won't be that one. We would like to thank the dental advisors for featuring. Okay, at the Toledo Dental Society. Go Klinger. I wonder if Klinger was there. Oh, and they got an ACD quote. The American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry Conference 2017. Okay, so yeah, Ivoclar, they know that one. Ivoclar, Bob Ganley's been crushing it at Ivoclar for what, 20? How long's he been there?
I don't know.
It's got to be 20 years, isn't it?
I think so, but I've got to say that every product they come out with, there's a good 3 years of research behind it. They don't just shove things out on the market. One of the things I talk about in my seminars, and again, this is something I probably can't say here.
You can say anything on Dentistry Uncensored.
No, I don't want to knock a product
Gosh, my gosh, we let our guests just go.
But I bought a scanner a couple of years ago, and when it first came out on the market, a very relatively expensive scanner by a very, very reliable company, so to speak. And I had the product in my office for a year until finally they allowed us to return it. They kept on saying there are problems, but yes, we know there are problems. Yeah. We're changing the software. We'll get the new software update.
Are you talking about the true definition from 3M?
Hey, as long as you said it.
No, Ryan said it. He just whispered in my ear. Thanks, Ryan. So what well, they got a really small head. I mean, they got the smallest head.
Yeah.
But they're the only ones that you have to use powder. What was it you didn't like? Was it because you had to use powder? I mean,
the powder was part of it, but the other part of it was that it would take us 20 minutes to do a scan, and it would take us 5 minutes to take an impression. So which wins?
Right.
So yeah, and I've heard the latest generation of them are better, but this is what I was saying about Ivoclar. It doesn't send things out on the market before its time, and that product was sent out before its time.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I noticed that that's the big unique selling proposition at these dental conventions. What's the one out of Copenhagen? Trios. Now all their marketing is that I scan this whole arch in 17 seconds. So that seems to be the whole big deal of scanning fast.
Well, it's not just the speed, but it's also how accurate it works. One thing I definitely recommend is that when you're buying something like that, make the rep bring it to the office, scan a tooth for a crown, send the crown out, get the crown back, and see how it fits before you buy it.
So, are you scanning your impressions now?
Nope. Not because I don't want to, because I love new stuff. My partner does it, and my partner was so soured by the experience that it's going to take a long time for her to buy another one.
Yeah, it's just tough. It has to make sense because, I mean, look at 3M. I've been using their Impergum for 30 years.
Right.
So for $17, I can take an Impergum impression and a triple tray and send it to a lab.
Right.
So they want me to buy a $17,000 true definition scanner.
Right.
And I mean, I'm just old school. I mean, my boy's grandpa Bernard, he still talks about the Depression every chance he gets. How old is he now? 87. I mean, he never got over it. And I don't know, but I just think that when you switch from a $17 Impergum to a $17,000 scanner. I mean, I got to put this in a full context. I mean, why is this happening? Because you're whining about the $350,000 student loans. You're whining you just bought a practice. That's balance sheet numbers. But in a cash flow deal, I know I'm hearing from the labs. The labs are telling me that when impressions come in scanned, they're doing a 1% remake. When they're coming in on Impergum, they're having or impression, vinyl polysilicon, they're having about a 6% remake. Are you hearing that?
It depends which unit. Now, some of the units that are fast are not as accurate. So that's something you have to look at. That's why I say don't buy it until you've tried it and gotten a crown back.
So you don't have one that you're using or recommend right now?
No, I've heard really good things about the Trios, but no, I don't have it myself.
And for the young kids also, when you practice a long time, you'll realize that there's a bleeding edge. Like in dentistry, I swear to God, after 30 years, no matter what dentistry comes out with, 1,000 dentists will buy it before they read the first 3 words. So you can sell 1,000 of anything to dentistry.
Right.
But there's 150,000 dentists who work 32 hours a week or more. It's the first 1,000 is bleeding edge technology. I like to wait till at least 5,000 of my homies have bought it, because dentists are paralysis by analysis. They're too damn educated. They don't read fiction. They don't know where the Kardashians live. They're a hard bunch of people to please. And I always say, if you can please 10,000 dentists with anything, there would be no way to backseat drive their decision. I mean, 10,000 dentists who went to 8 to 12 years of college. By the time 10,000 dentists have agreed to purchase something with their own money, it's no longer bleeding edge; it's leading edge. Yep. And then the back half of the market, the back 75,000 dentists, they wouldn't buy anything high tech. If you sent it to them free, they wouldn't even get out of the box.
It's true. Well, we talked about this. We talked about this before. I call them dental society dentists. And I'm not knocking that, because I was a dental society dentist for my first 10 years or 15 years in practice. But what I mean by that are people who only go for continuing education at the local dental society because the lectures are cheaper, and to just fulfill what their obligation is for the state, not to really learn anything. And that's a big, big difference. So,
yeah. And that's one of the motivators between us starting the online C on Dentaltown. We now got 411 courses. That's the impetus behind this podcast, because my 30 years looking back, the number one variable that just made dentists happy and healthy and crush it and have fun and make lots of money is they were all taking about 100 hours of CE a year. Mm-hmm. And when we started doing this show, we thought to ourselves, you're in a small town. Your study club is the last Thursday of every month. You get 1 hour a month. You get 12 hours a year. We can give you 12 hours in 2 weeks. I can get guys like you to come on that would never go to Parsons, Kansas and lecture, because you won't stoop that low.
I just lectured in Topeka.
Topeka's 3 times nicer than Parsons. My God, Topeka's the capital of Kansas. Parsons is where my mom and dad, all my grandparents were born.
I even got a tour of Topeka, and it took more than 10-15 minutes.
Really? Yeah. So I think you got to stay hungry, hustle, work ethic. You got to be humble. Listen to everybody. Listen to teachers. Listen to patients. Listen to staff. But you got to be intellectually curious. And if you're not consuming 100 hours a year of your other colleagues talking to you about what they're thinking, then you don't have that curiosity. You're going to learn everything the hard way, or you're going to burn out, or you're going to be miserable. Just it's guys like you coming on this show for free. That's motivating dentists.
Wait. I'm not getting paid for this.
I'll call Dan Fisher and tell him to send you another laser.
Who got me this gig?
Are you gonna play a song on your guitar?
It's not my guitar; it's my son's guitar. I'm in his room.
I love that little dog. He's so cute. He keeps coming in and poking his head around the door.
Oh, she's
about 3 times. So what else? You talked about Ivoclar, Tokiyama, Ultradent's Garrison. What else got you excited?
What else got me excited?
About 60 less expensive products that make cosmetic dentistry.
I know, and I have them all on my list, and I have videos of them. How about the T-Scan? Anything about the T-Scan? which is a product that's been around there for many, many years, made by a company called TechScan. And what it does is it helps you balance bites. And if you can balance a bite, potentially you're not going to break any teeth. You're not going to cause TMJ problems after you do a case, and you'll be able to diagnose where problems are. So that to me is a terrific thing. One of the things that I am very, very strongly in favor of is old-fashioned face bows and old-fashioned mounting cases with articulators. And the articulators are now Whipmix articulators, and the face bow is the 360, which is very, very fast. And one of the things I do in my lecture is I tell people who have not been using a face bow in 40 years since they left dental school that there's like a 4-step program in getting them to use it again. Because I never touched it for the first 15 years in dentistry and hated the thought of it. But I find that since I've started using these and since I started mounting cases and doing wax-ups and working at a terrific laboratory, life has changed completely for me at the office. And I love more what I do because I can create beautiful dentistry that way.
Okay, but are you talking about for a big anterior case, 6, 8, 10, 12 units? Or are you talking about for a first molar, single unit?
It depends how bad the bite is. For a single crown, no, definitely not. But for a case where we're talking 5, 6 units or more, if the patient is breaking teeth, breaking crowns, if there's a lot of abfraction, if there is other kinds of damage, periodontal damage that doesn't seem to be part of periodontal disease, so obviously it's occlusally related, absolutely.
So you know what, abfractions. I call this Dentistry Uncensored because I like to talk about everything that no one agrees on. I don't want to talk about anything that everyone agrees on.
Yeah.
But when you go back to abfractions, you don't have any really agreement in the dental industry about that. Some people
Right.
think it's because they're brushing, they're sawing back and forth. And then there's the people that come from the veterinary side that say, okay, well, how come it's in antelopes, cows,
Exactly.
horses, and we've never
Okay.
seen them brush, but the sheep have abfractions. So what do you think causes an abfraction?
I think it is. I think it is clenching. I think it's banging into one tooth. Why is it usually premolars? Why is it usually certain teeth in the mouth and not a whole mouth worth of it? It just doesn't make any sense. If it was just from toothbrushing, we used to tell patients we already had an answer for that. And the answer was, well, if you use a backhand stroke, the left side you wear down faster. But it wasn't really true. I believe that abfraction is caused by clenching, by heavy-duty clenching, but I think the areas are worsened once they start by overbrushing.
One of my homies, if you're really passionate about what causes abfractions, I want you to know that if you go to Wikipedia and you go to abfraction, it says abfraction is still a controversial theory. There are various ideas on what causes lesions. Because of this controversy, the true causes of abfractions also remain disputable. Researchers have proposed that abfraction is caused by force on the tooth, from the teeth touching together, occlusive force in chewing and swallowing. But basically, an abfraction is. But anyway, so I always thought that was interesting that abfraction is a form of non-carious tooth tissue loss that occurs along the gingival margin. In other words, abfraction is a mechanical loss of tooth structure that is not caused by tooth decay. But I find it interesting that if you go on Wikipedia right now, it still says, I mean, the official deal, because Wikipedia is a pretty damn good source in dentistry. I mean, it is when patients come in and do their 15-minute Google search to trump your little doctor to dentistry paper diploma thing, my patients are going to WebMD, Wikipedia. I mean, it's a big deal in dentistry. So if you start saying something that Wikipedia or WebMD doesn't agree with, and treatment plan presentation is a huge problem in dentistry. I mean, the average of the industry for just cavities diagnosis is only a 38% treatment for drill, fill, and bill. 38%. That's 1 in 3. And so I want to switch. I only got you. I only got you for 5 more minutes.
Damn.
I want you to switch gears completely. We just had 6,000 dentists graduate from dental school and joined our sovereign profession of dentistry, what advice? What if you had all 6,000 of them kids in a convention theater and you had to give them the commencement speech? What would you tell them?
Okay, well, I would start with realize that your education has just started and that you may have learned a fair amount in dental school, but you may understand teeth. Do you really understand jaws? Do you understand muscles? Do you understand what causes people to have TMJ issues as they get older? Do you understand how to deal with a periodontist who has a point of view and an endodontist and an orthodontist that have a totally different point of view? I also tell them certain things about what to do to make your practice happy. For example, if you hate doing a procedure, now of course this doesn't necessarily work when you get right out of dental school, but maybe when you start in your practice, if you hate doing a procedure, don't do it. Find somebody else to do it for you, refer it out. You'll find ways to fill the schedule. Enjoy the moment every day. So if something good is happening, don't sit and strive for something all the time, because striving, some people never get to where they're striving for and never enjoyed any of those moments along the way, which is what we were talking about before. Couple of things. It's very normal to have doubts when you get out of dental school. Very normal to fear that you just don't have it, or you're not as good as the other people out there. Because frankly, that's how I felt. A friend of yours probably remembers me that way. That's Howie Goldstein, who went to college and dental school with me.
You guys had the same graduating class?
Yes, sir.
Well, how
yes.
come you look so much younger than him?
A clean life, I guess.
I was just teasing.
But in actuality, I came out of dental school scared to death. And part of it was that I didn't feel I knew enough. And I wish I had gone out to learn more stuff then instead of 15 years later. The other thing, great hands. How many people truly have great hands in dentistry? That's something you point to some guy and look how fast he's waxing a tooth when you're in dental school. That's a scary thing when you get out and you just don't feel you have the great hands. Frankly, great hands are not normal. There aren't many of us that can do things the way that a Spear can do it, or the way that a Dawson could do it. It just doesn't work that way. But you can actually grow to learn how to do things and become better at it than most people out there if you practice it and if it's something you enjoy to do. Hiring. Hire people you want to spend your day with. So many people hire people because they pick somebody who has the best review as a dental assistant and not necessarily the best human being. Well, the human being is who you're spending your time with 8 hours a day. So you want to be with people that you like, and the chances are if you like them, your patients are going to like them too. It's going to help you grow your practice. How's that?
That was awesome, but I'm going to go back with 3 follow-up questions because I'm going to try to pin you down. Again, a lot of people think that I'm just against, buying anything high tech. And again, that's further from the truth. It's you don't have to buy anything high tech to make a lot of money,
right.
But you should buy toys that motivate you. And the one thing I like about these institutes, and I've been to them all. I've been to John Coyce. I've seen Frank Spear. I've gone to his institute. Peter Dawson, Bill Dickerson. I went through 5 weeks of the Pank Institute, which now they just hired Leanne Brady.
I know.
Woo, 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 woo. She's gonna rock it at the Pank Institute. But the thing I like the most about all those institutes is not all the knowledge about TMJ and TMD and all that. It's that these institutes, they motivate, they inspire, they lead. It's like you wanted to quit the football team and now you go find Vince Lombardi and he just renewed your deal. I saw that with Dawson. I mean, I have so many friends that were just aimlessly wandering through dentistry, and then they went to Dawson, and now they're just like militant little minions who just love TMJ, and they, So I need you to light your fire, but I want to pin you down. What one would you recommend? Panky, Dickerson, Bill Dickerson's LVI in Vegas, Pete Dawson's in Tampa. Is he Tampa or St. Petersburg? St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg.
Frank Spears here in Scottsdale. John Coyce is in Seattle. The Panky Institute's in Key Biscayne. It's outside of Miami. What would you? What would you? If someone was burned out, which we started this discussion, was that 15 years after your first 15 years of dentistry, you were done. If someone said, I've been doing dentistry for 15 years and I'm done, I need to light my fire, which one of those institutes would you recommend?
Neither. First thing I would recommend is joining the AACD. Because once you can create beautiful dentistry, you can also learn at the same point, at the same places, you can learn occlusion. But the answer to your question is all three of those institutes are great, and they all have their benefits. Spear, to me, is the best lecturer I have ever heard. Unfortunately, he doesn't lecture all that much anymore. A lot of other people are part of his lectures, but he's the best, most motivating person I've ever listened to. Pete Dawson makes everything incredibly understandable, and that goes for his counterparts there. John Cranham, my friend Raju Padya, who's this wonderful guy who's working with them now. And at Coy's is a genius, a true genius with the stuff that comes out of his mouth. So all of those places are great. I say go to the place that's closest to you in your part of the country.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. Love Frank, love John, love Peter Dawson. Then two more quick questions. I know we're over. Just can I ask you an overtime question?
Of course.
We should, because it's Saturday morning, and I know the bars in your town don't open till 5. So you've got at least another 5 minutes. You have no excuses. A lot of times we're back at the graduating class.
Yeah.
Every graduating class since the first dental school in Baltimore in 1880, whatever that was, they all graduate and say, "Well, they didn't teach me TMJ. They didn't teach me Invisalign. We didn't place one implant. We didn't learn sleep apnea. We didn't learn can-cam. We only did 3 canals of endo." And they can't learn everything at once. But holding your feet to the fire, I got $350,000 student loans. I want a return on my investment. Should I learn TMJ, Invisalign ortho, sleep apnea, surgically placing implants, CAD-CAM dentistry, molar endo? Where should she start?
Complete Dentistry, which is one of those academies you were just talking about. Because if you don't understand what about this supposed to work like, you're not going to be able to do anything, all the rest of the stuff.
Okay, explain to her the term, where that comes from, the term complete dentistry.
I'm not sure if it came from Pankey, but I learned it from Dawson.
I think it came from Dawson.
And basically, it's got to do with learning the teeth, the gums, the joint, and the muscles at the same time, and realizing how they interact, and not create a roundhouse that's going to break in 3 months.
Okay, and very last question. I hate to throw you under a bridge, but I'm going to throw you under a bridge and off a building. A lot of them work for corporate, and they have to use this lab, and they hate this lab. And one of the biggest reasons that associates quit their job is because they're working. And when I say corporate, I shouldn't say corporate, because again, they're only 12% of the dental industry. A lot of people work for old man, some old guy in the middle of Missouri, but his buddy, his drinking buddy for 30 years, the lab man down the street, and you work for me, I pay you 25%, I pay the lab bill, but I only pay the lab bill if you use my guy for 30 years, he's the best guy in the world. And there's a lot of young dentists saying, but this is a special case, and I'm not using this guy. I don't care if I have to pay for this lab money. What lab do you recommend? Bayview
Dental Laboratory.
Will you text that? What is it?
Bayview Dental Laboratory.
Bayview, Bayview.
Yes.
Bayview. I assume that's out of San Francisco?
No, it's not. No, it's in Virginia Beach. And there are 2 people working there who run the place who are amazing. Buddy Schaefer and Rick Schaefer, who've been involved with the Dawson Academy for the last, 25 years. They know more about dentistry than 99.99% of dentists out there. And they will help you, and that's part of what my lecture is about, finding people that actually know more than you do.
So their website is bvdl.com.
That's correct.
It says, for over 75 years and into the 3rd generation, the Schaefer family has served the dental industry with commitment, professionalism, and passion. Mr. Vernon Schaefer began his career in the dental lab field in the 1930s when Peter Auster and Howard Goldstein were born. They all went to World War II together. He served as a senior dental technician manager. Okay, so that's a good one, because they get that question a lot. And we've had a lot of CEOs of some of these DSMOs on, and I'll tell you what, the better DSMO does not say you have to use one lab. Or they have something where, okay, say I'm paying you 25%, but you got to use this lab. At least make that lab, at least give them 3 or 4 or 5 choices. And then you could also, on a bigger case, like say your associate joined the ACD and she wants to do this 10-unit veneer case, and she wants to use some lab that's not going to give you a discount. Say it's BVDL. You got to make arrangements, because I don't know how you're going to build a dental business if 80% of your associates only stay with you for 2 years or less. I mean, would you go to a doctor where every 2 years that doctor was gone and just keep going back to that medical building?
I think that may be changing, though. I think the heartlands of the world are going to start to change the way they operate if they're going to stay in business. But they've got some benefits because they can get cheaper supplies and cheaper everything else and cheaper management styles. But I think you're right. I think they have to find ways to keep people working for longer periods of time.
I've been going to the same dermatologist for 30 years. I mean, she is so smoking hot. And but anyway, but yeah, you got to keep your dentist.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, well, hey, seriously, man, it's Saturday morning. I know you were massively hungover. I know you just got Uber had just delivered you back to your house right when we called. But seriously, thank you so much, Peter. Oh, will you ever grace Dentaltown magazine with an article?
If I can work on that, if you'd like
My
me
God,
to.
I'm reading your bio. You wrote one for Dentistry Today and Dental Economics and Inside Dentistry. Where's the love for Dentaltown?
No one's asked me.
Well, I'm asking right
I'll
now.
tell Howard to give me a call.
Tell who?
Howard.
Hogo is in charge of online CE, and he would love to have an online CE course from you. It's crazy. And he's in charge of message board, but the magazine is in charge of by Tom Giacobbe since the year 2000. So it's Hogo at Dentaltown, because I was Howard at Dentaltown. So there's already a Howard. So he's Hogo for Howard Goldstein Dentaltown, and Tom is just Tom at dentaltown.com. But I know Hogo would love to have an online CE course. They're extremely popular. And Tom would love to have an article. In fact, I think 60 less expensive products. If you could fit all, I mean, that'd probably be the whole magazine if you covered 60. But yeah, I think that's a hot topic. Whatever you want to talk about.
Do I get paid as much as I got paid today?
Oh man, we'll give you free ×2.
Nice.
But thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know my homies enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a rockin' hot day.
When real patients sit down to talk about Cosmetic Dentistry Associates, they all have something to say.
They're so friendly, so warm. I feel like I'm with friends.
They're just really wonderful and easy to work with.
I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it to any friend. They're going to be treated well.
Experience cosmetic dentistry like never before.
It's just all first rate and top notch.
I felt like a new person.
Cosmetic Dentistry Associates. Contact us at 845-364-0400.